and its negative impacts to business and society as a whole. Our speaker is the Azure Business Lead of Microsoft Philippines. He oversees the marketing, sales, and operations of key Microsoft solutions such as Azure, Windows Server, SQL Server, Cloud Security, Analytics, and AI. He is an IT industry veteran of 25 years and has worked with Fortune 500 companies as well as local established systems integrators, vendors, and startups in various roles in technical support, training systems, network, data center, and hybrid cloud infrastructure, marketing, and business development. Our speaker has been with Microsoft for the past 6 years, starting in 2012, and he is a graduate of De La Salle University with a bachelor's degree in computer science. So let us welcome Mr. Herns Hermida.
Thank you, Mr. Neri, for that introduction. Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Herns. I'm going to share my screen now and stop my video. So for some of you who are maybe bandwidth challenged, I will. Okay. Stop my video. Okay. Okay, does everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. So again, good morning, everyone. My name is Herns. I'm the Azure Business Lead for Microsoft Philippines. I work with Paolo and about 120 more people within Microsoft Philippines. And I'd like to spend the next 30 minutes of this session to talk about Microsoft's own response to COVID-19. When the crisis actually started all the way back, in fact, in late December and even early January. So my intention for this presentation is just to give you an overview of how we as a company responded to this and how we help our various communities, our customers and our partners, as well as the communities that are dependent on Microsoft to respond to this crisis. Before I start my presentation, I remember that there was a question in Paolo's presentation about accessibility. I would like to address that here live. There was a question that was posted a while ago about how do you make sure that you create course materials that are appropriate and can be used by persons with disabilities and also for children that have mental disabilities. There's going to be a long answer to that, but let me tell you that I'm actually proud to say that Microsoft is one of the technology companies that are very, very invested towards diversity and inclusion and also on accessibility. The most popular tool that is used for creating course materials and also delivering course materials is Microsoft Office. So in Microsoft Office, we have a number of accessibility features. And if you were listening to Paolo's presentation a while ago, you actually saw a demonstration of one of them in Microsoft Teams. So for example, immersive reader that allows you to read your presentation out loud via speech to text. Text to speech, baliktad. Text to speech, this is for vision impaired students or learners. And we also have capabilities in Microsoft that does the reverse way, which is text to speech. This is for vision impaired, also speech to text, also for hearing impaired students as well. In Microsoft Teams, I don't know, unfortunately, we are not doing this session on Microsoft Teams, but otherwise I could have shown you a feature in Microsoft Teams called live transcription. In other words, kung ano yung sinasabi nyo doon sa like Microsoft Teams in a session such as like this, it is actually being transcribed live parang closed captioning. And this is particularly to address the needs of our vision impaired students, or hearing impaired students naman. And there are also a number of accessibility features in Microsoft Office, for instance, like PowerPoint or Microsoft Word that gives you, like literally at the click of a button, it will tell you, for example, whether your document is readable by sight impaired students or should be changed in terms of format to accommodate mentally challenged students. So, for example, one of my favorite features is, and I actually saw this in one of our in one of our demonstrations, in one of the schools that Microsoft has held, there are students pala that I discovered na they respond negatively to bright colors. May nagte-trigger sa utak nila, no? Minsan nga nagte-trigger pa nga daw ng epileptic episode. So if there's a button or accessibility features in Microsoft Office that actually tells you to stop using bright colors because this might not be uh, this might not be conducive for learning for mentally challenged students. So those are just some of the capabilities. So accessibility features in Microsoft Office, and it's all for free as long as you have Microsoft Office and you've subscribed to the latest features of Office. You will get those additional accessibility features. Okay, so I wanted to address that, but now let's move to the part of our Microsoft response to COVID-19. All right. In a span of 3 months, our world in Microsoft changed. So the first COVID case, I don't know if you can still remember this, was in the Philippines. Was in January 13. So when that started, we had some precautionary measures. Non-essential travel had been curtailed, and then in a day later or 2 days later, Seattle, where Microsoft Worldwide headquarters is, announced the first cases and the first death. And then a day later, our senior leadership, led by Satya Nadella, our CEO, and the rest of our leadership, gave guidance to all of employees on what to do in the face of the emerging crisis back then, with a focus on China. Because if you remember, doon nag-start ang COVID-19 sa China. So a lot of our prevention and guidance in terms of responding to COVID-19 was actually focused on China. We started canceling events, we postponed and we converted to digital. Non-essential travel as were all canceled. And in early in February, there was firm guidance to work from home, but offices remained open. Here in the Philippines, for instance, I personally was still going to the office in February 10. Although I noticed that a significant portion of our workforce were no longer going to the office on February 10th. All our meetings were converted to Teams. So in fact, even back in February 10, even before the term social distancing sumikat, parang pinauso na namin yun. Like we had internal guidance that said that there are no meetings that are more than 3 people. If it's more than 3 people, then you have to do it over Teams para walang physical contact and to maintain social distancing. So the first tranches of donations in cash and technology made in China. And in March, we offered Office 365 E1. Teams is included in that. That started in China because we started to realize that in order to get the economy not to completely stall, people still needed to continue to work. But we discovered that a lot of our customers did not have the tools. So we basically gave away Office 365 E1 to a lot of our initially companies, and now marami ng first responders, hospitals, police and national security organizations that have taken advantage of this trial offer. A couple of days later, we offered our Windows Virtual Desktop for free for a lot of our corporate customers. I'll explain later on what Windows Virtual Desktop is. But essentially, when we offered Office 365 in Windows Virtual Desktop, it is under the intention of allowing our customers to continue to work from home effectively and as productive as they can without any monetary commitments. Libre. I mean, you can try it, and then after a certain number of days, you can stop using it, and you can stop using it if you want to, and then it will convert to actually a paid subscription later on. In March 6, we had our first Microsoft employee cases. So this is like a worldwide. This is like a worldwide thing that happened. That all our facilities were sanitized. And then in March 12, that is when our Philippine office officially closed. Our remote work is initiated by all. So I personally have been working out of my house since March 13. I've never set foot in our office since March 13. And all of our meetings, including our meetings with our customers and our partners, were all done via Teams. So how is Microsoft helping our community? So Microsoft is the biggest enterprise software and consumer software company in the world today. So in terms of market capitalization, when I checked, we are second behind Apple, and Apple is a as you know, is a devices organization. But Microsoft is the one that is bigger in terms of is the biggest in terms of providing cloud services and also enterprise software to our customers. So our impact as an organization is really far-reaching. It's not just about our customers and about our partners, but as you saw from Paulo's presentation a while ago, we are also investing a lot of money in ensuring that we skill up our future leaders and our youth to have future skills that are ready for the future. And there are a number of communities that are dependent on us and then that we are reaching out to. So Microsoft, we saw this as an opportunity to literally use the might and the size and the vast amount of resources that we had within the organization, not just in the Philippines, but also every Microsoft organization in worldwide. We are 130, we are about close to 200,000 employees worldwide. We have offices in close to 200 countries. We have, we're a large organization. I mean, we're talking about 100, we're talking about close to $150 billion of revenue. So how do we use all of those resources to help our communities during this crisis? One of the first things that we did is we partnered with researchers to accelerate the work to find the cure. So we all know already at this point that COVID-19 is a virus, and what we need is an immunization program and a vaccine to vaccinate or immunize a majority of the world's population in order to eradicate the virus. We've learned lessons from the past that that is the only way that we can help solve this crisis, by making sure that a majority or a significant portion of the world's population becomes immune. So how do we help our researchers? First is we map the immune system response to COVID-19 using our cloud capabilities. Now, Azure and Office 365 runs on top of 58 data center regions all over the world. We have close to 300 data centers all over the world, and these are huge data centers, some of which are larger than, in terms of floor size or floor space, larger than an American or a soccer football field. And we have vast amounts of computing power that's available to our fingertips on demand. So we use that and partnered with a number of research organizations to map first the immune system response to COVID-19. How does the body respond to COVID-19? How do we, early in the days, we didn't have a lot of, we didn't know a lot about this virus, so we had to simulate a lot of these about these responses. So the only way to do this is through large computing capacity via the cloud. The other thing is that we donated computing capacity to aid efforts to find the drug treatment. So in modern biotechnology, you need a lot of computing power to simulate, not just on a Petri dish, but also using medical models that are already digitized. We also collaborated to create an open machine-readable data set of all scientific literature. So when you find a cure for a virus, for example, I don't know if any of you are in the medical field, but the first thing that you have to do is to read all of the related and even non-related medical literature and scour them for clues on how to build and create a cure for the virus. Now, the problem is there's an infinite amount of medical materials that's already out there. So scientific, you can trace it all the way back to the start of the medical practice during the 1700s. Now, how do you read all of that, given the limited amount of people and amount of readers that we have? So we used machine learning to read through these materials, and we basically weed out the materials that are not relevant to research, and they just come up with a list of the materials that are relevant to the research. We also provided free access to high performance computing to advance the pace of scientific discovery. So, for example, mapping the essential components of the virus at the DNA level, it's possible to do this manually. It's going to take thousands of years. So, computing capacity, we donated that as part of the research. And we've also partnered with the WHO in a series of hackathons to tackle challenges related to the pandemic. The second is how did we support our customers and organizations on the front line? Well, there's a lot of examples here. We used our tools such as Power BI to provide curated dashboards for community COVID-19 data stories. So these are essentially samples examples of dashboards that some national governments are already using that to map or to visualize the impact of COVID-19. We made it also possible for our community to submit Power Apps and use our template. So think of Power Apps as a tool for low code, LOW code. Instead of creating an application that requires a lot of programming, when you create an application using Power Apps, you actually don't need to program. It's literally a drag and drop interface for the UI and for the workflow to happen. So we also made it easier for our healthcare workers to capture data from the front line. So we have a number of tools that are available for free for our health workers to adopt. They can brand it on their own if they want to. We partnered with the Center for Disease and Control to make us a health checker bot. So if you go to the CDC website, cdc.gov in the United States, there's actually an AI-driven chatbot that will ask you for questions and gives you an answer whether you are COVID-19 positive based on the answers that were asked by the chatbot, and also gives you advice on what to do next. We also created a new education category in Minecraft Marketplace with free educational content because we already knew back then that schools are going to be closed. So apart from the team's capabilities that Paulo demonstrated a while ago, how do we keep the kids engaged while they're online, while they're playing a game called Minecraft? And we've already had a number of use cases, and some of you, I've looked through the attendance, you're actually working for schools, some of you that are using Minecraft for education. We partnered with schools to bring tools and educational resources to students, and we've also provide free teams access to healthcare organizations so that they can quickly communicate. So you saw the power in the the capabilities of Microsoft Teams a while ago in Paulo's demonstration. It's a specific education scenario, but you can imagine how this can be also helpful in healthcare scenarios as well, especially for first responders. For broader societal and economic impact, we help, let me just pick a few things over here because I want to make sure that I leave time for question and answers. We partnered with LinkedIn, for example. So if you didn't know, LinkedIn is actually a Microsoft company. We partnered with LinkedIn to create a trusted news and facts flow. So because of COVID-19, the initial days, and even until now, there are a lot of fake news about COVID-19, fake cures, fake news, etc. So we work with LinkedIn, and as you can see in the screen, we also partnered with the likes of Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube to make sure that we ourselves are responsible for curating the right news and the right information and the accurate information about COVID-19 and not permeate fake news, if you will, about COVID-19. We supported nonprofits and NGOs during COVID-19. So I don't know if any of you have used rapidpass.ph. So raise of hands if you have. These helped. We partnered with DevCon Philippines, who created rapidpass.ph that allows our Filipino frontliners to go past checkpoints much faster than ever before. So the RapidPass application is actually hosted on Azure, and we donated Azure capability to the DevCon people for them to continue to start creating and hosting applications with no charge to them. We also realized that a number of our physical stores, like in the US, the Europe, and some parts of Asia, we actually have Microsoft physical stores. We have, meron kaming mga tindahan na nagbebenta ng Surface, ng PCs, etc. And of course, those are going to be shuttered. So we decided early on in February that we announced that we are going to continue to pay our retail and hourly service providers at sites that are still on lockdown or still in some form of quarantine. We continue to provide relief funds and financial support to those impacted in our local communities. So in the Philippines, we work with the likes of Oxfam, for example, and Gawad Kalinga to help some underserved communities because unfortunately, the joint response of government and private sector is not enough to cover everyone. So there are some pockets of our society that is not being reached in terms of support. So we are partnering with these organizations to reach out to these customers. And if you have your browser handy with you, you can go to here, bing.com/COVID-19. We show in updated infection statistics. We partnered with the John Hopkins University in the US to show accurate information about the rate of infection, some lightweight analytics on if you want to see and compare countries as to how they're dealing with how they are dealing with COVID-19. And then finally, knowing the fact that, for example, based on today's session, I know that there are some of you that have concerns about doing remote sessions, remote classes. And you're not alone. There's a number of organizations that are suddenly shifting into remote work or work from home or work from anywhere, and they're completely unprepared, not just on the technology side, but also on the, shall we say, the mental side, the psychological side. I used to joke around before, sabi ko, sa Microsoft kasi sanay na kami mag-work from home kasi umpisa pa lang, we're already being encouraged. Like, for example, myself, as a practice, ako, si Herns, I actually work from home at least once a week. So, and I have reasons for that because I needed a change of scenery, nagtitipid ako sa gas, or I need to be with the kids or whatever. But a lot of our organizations and schools and higher institutions of higher learning are not used to this type of situation where you're going to have to do remote instruction, remote work. So we started sharing best practices about remote work. Like, for example, outlining cultural components. So we don't need to go far. Like in Microsoft, we are a multicultural, multinational organization. And I learned this that in some countries that you really have to turn on your video because it's culturally not acceptable if you're talking to a person that you can't see the face. So those cultural nuances, tinuturuan kami yan. And we started to share those best practices to our customers as well. We launched a COVID-19 Business Resource Center on LinkedIn to help us connect and share advice. So think of this as a remote work community within the LinkedIn membership so that people who are using Teams and doing remote work are sharing best practices on how to keep employees engaged, how to keep your employees motivated, because we realized, and I don't know, and hopefully you're not suffering from this, that a number of employees are actually not used to an environment where they are by themselves talking into a microphone to talk to other people. They're really sanay sila that there are literally people physically around them so that they can do their best work. But we all know that that's impossible now because of the situation. We also provide the Teams-related guidance and other resources in the Microsoft 365 Lab. Okay, so you've seen a great demonstration of Teams from Paolo a while ago. So we have a number of educational institutions already using Teams for instruction. Forums such as this one, you can do Teams. We have actually hosted Teams events, live events. If I'm not mistaken, the biggest Teams live event that has ever been done, as far as I know, is from one of our customers, and they had all 15,000 employees logging in at the same time listening to their company leadership speak. So we made available Teams for everyone. So every customer, every partner, in education naman, Teams has always been free, as Paulo said a while ago. And the assistance to deploy and to help you get started on Teams is also for free. But for corporates, they pay for this. But we've decided that they can use Teams for up to 6 months, if I am not mistaken, just so that they can continue to work during this crisis. One of the things that we are proud of is that the Supreme Court actually created virtual courtrooms using Teams. So the problem initially with COVID-19, this is one of the problems. So kung sarado kung may COVID-19, may quarantine, hindi magbubukas ang mga korte. Kapag sarado ang korte, if the courts are closed, then all the hearings are not happening. If all hearings are not happening, the people that are supposed to be released, for example, are still going to spend more time in jail or in prison. Yun naman mga kawawa naman na may kaso, hindi umuusad yung kaso nila because sarado yung korte. So what we decided to do was to work with the Supreme Court to provide virtual courts using Teams. And this is really, this really does impact, this impact really even, at least me personally, it warms my heart. Like in the first 9 days of video conferencing hearings, almost 4,000, almost 5,000 persons deprived of liberty were released yung hearings nila tumuloy pa rin. Yung mga dapat mapawalang sala or kailangan ng ma-release dahil kailangan pwede na silang ilabas sa kulungan, lumabas in the span of 9 days. This is 125 increase of daily releases compared to COVID time. So naging baliktad pa nga. The High Court also allowed e-filing of complaints, petitions for bail, and etc. etc. The judges were sitting in front of PCs, hearing cases from lawyers, hearing arguments from both the prosecution and from the defense. It's a beautiful thing kasi tuloy-tuloy pa rin nangyayari. So even the Chief Justice himself has lauded this project that was spearheaded by the Supreme Court themselves so that the wheels of justice continues to roll in a sense. Now, let me talk about virtual desktop. Okay, so what is virtual desktop? The best example of what I can think about virtual desktop is imagine you are a contact center or call center employee, BPO ka, BPO. Maraming contact centers or call centers na sarado kasi nga quarantine. Hindi sila makapasok. Ang problema nila, the applications that they are supposed to use while they are servicing customers over the phone in the contact center scenario, nasa PC nila, nasa office. So how do they get access to their PC in the office? The answer there is virtual desktop, Microsoft Virtual Desktop. So what this does is that it provides, let's say imagine mo, ikaw ay isang contact center employee, meron kang Android tablet or iPad. Using virtual desktop, ma-access mo yung PC mo na nandoon sa office mo sa Makati or nasa call center floor. And if you're using Microsoft Teams, you can continue to service customers in a contact center scenario even if you are at home. Yun yung virtual desktop. The other is, I talked about PowerUps a while ago. So do a little bit of more research about PowerUps, but essentially PowerUps is our platform for customers and for people to create low-code applications. You don't even need to know how to program. You don't need to learn how to program in C or in Visual Basic, Visual Studio, whatever, or Python or Java, etc. You just simply map out the flow of your application and then create that application on Microsoft PowerUps and then deploy that application on PCs and devices and on mobile phones. So an example is we have a COVID-19 reporting toolkit for state and local communities. Gawa na to. This was of course based in the US, but to change the flow so that it can be used in the Philippines takes less than a day. We have some local governments using this already. So kinuha nila yung PowerUps na to, libre to. They changed the interface a bit para lumabas local government of whatever or city of whatever, and they use this for their contact tracers out there in the field to report kung ano na yung infections per barangay or etc. It can also use for triage. Like you can imagine in a emergency room situation in a hospital during the height of the COVID crisis, and unfortunately even now, ang hirap mag-triage ng cases. No? So when papasok, you'll have to make sure that I'm sure you're familiar with the triage case kasi somebody, a doctor or a nurse, will get in front of you and ask you questions, and then will ask you to go certain places within the hospital depending on your case and how severe your case is. That process is called the triage. Now, the triage process can be automated using PowerUps. We actually created a solution for that, and we gave it to the hospitals for free, for hospitals to adapt themselves. Okay, now this is my last slide. I wanted to share a message, an email that was sent by our CEO Satya in March 22, 2020, that was since published in LinkedIn. And the email was titled Coming Together to Combat COVID-19. So the first thing that struck me about this email was the heightened empathy of our leadership towards our employees and our customers. I mean, look at how it was worded. Sabi niya, we are thinking of you and prioritizing the health and safety of you and your families first and foremost. So, and then this is a great quote that I use a lot nowadays. In times of great disruption and uncertainty, our ability to stay grounded in our sense of purpose and remain true to our identity is of utmost importance. So it is an opportunity for us as an organization, as a massive organizations, to help the world go through this crisis. Our unique role as a platform and tools provider allows us to connect the dots, bring together an ecosystem of partners, and enable organizations of all sizes to build the digital capability required to address these challenges. And finally, he said that I'm proud of how we are adopting a first responder mindset across the company, working with so many customers on the front line, including governments, health providers, schools, food suppliers, and other commercial customers, critical to the continuity and stability of services of every country. Now, when we first read this, parang, oo nga, no? Bigla kaming parang Microsoft employees suddenly became first responders. So suddenly anything that's COVID-19 related, sometimes we literally drop what we are doing and then join a call to discuss how we can help a school or a government or a private institution to weather this crisis through themselves, given their own unique situation. So you've seen some examples of that, how we've held the Supreme Court, how we continue to involve Microsoft Teams as a tool for remote education, and how we've helped, for example, the IATF with Rapid Pass to partner with in partnership with DevCon Philippines. That's the first responder mindset. Okay, so the last thing, it's a long email, but I just have another excerpt here, and I'm going to try to read this out loud because it's quite impactful. We are in uncharted territory, much is unknown, and I know how unsettling and uncertain this may feel. Like many of you, there are many times over the past week where it has felt overwhelming and all-encompassing. One truth brings me comfort. It's just that this virus has no border and its cures will have no borders. We are all in this together as a global community. And for me, this is the best way I find to get past this anxiety is to focus on what I can do to make a small difference. Each of us, wherever we are, has the opportunity to do the same, to take an action driven by hope, a small step that makes things a bit better. And if everyone does something that makes the world a bit better, our collective work will in fact make the world a lot better for the people we love, for our communities, for our society. So I'd like to leave that message for everyone. Even though you are not, kahit ako, no, I'm just one of 200,000 employees of Microsoft. What can I do to help in this crisis? Any small thing that you can do, help a colleague, help a friend, help a student, catch up with the studies. So the beautiful thing about this type of technology is that you can reach out to a student anytime, anywhere. Okay? Nobody has to actually go to physically another place just to go on a meeting or to go to a consultation. You know, any bit will help for us to any person reach out for any people who will reach out help, and you will find. And I hope this is true for everyone. And you will find that this will also alleviate our own anxiety. Nothing. If I hope you agree, and I don't see nothing. Hindi ko nakikita yung nodding heads, unfortunately. But I hope you agree that the mere act of helping somebody else actually relieves you of some of that anxiety already. So with that, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you very much. And if there's any questions, I have still time to answer some of them.
Okay, thank you very much for that talk, Mr. Ernst Hermida. So we have time for some questions from our attendees. So we have heard and seen how Microsoft is actively engaged in finding a cure for the coronavirus, as well as providing relief, for people who are affected by these sectors who are affected by these, as well as caring for their employees. So I just have a question here first. Suppose that there is an individual researcher who wants to conduct his or her own research on the coronavirus. Does Microsoft provide a free access to some library or a database of literature that the individual researcher can start on?
Yes, absolutely. There's okay. First of all, si Microsoft kasi mahilig sa programs. We actually do have a research program to assist researchers. It takes a little bit of work from researchers though. You have to put together a paper
Mm-hmm.
and basically in 2 or 3 pages discuss what you want to do, what resources you require, and what is the possible outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through quite a stringent review process, and the outcome of that process, if you were selected, is that you're going to be given grants. Grants of what? Grants on software, access to Azure, especially if, for example, you are going to, let's say, for example, one of you out there wants to do a study on the COVID-19 cures, maybe. So if it's a well-written article and if it goes through our medical reviewers up in headquarters, pwede kayong mabigyan ng grants.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to how we did it with the National Health Service in the UK, and the CDC and so on. Materials, there's a lot of scientific materials. I don't know in particular if Microsoft has a library of scientific materials, but what we have done is we partnered with the likes of of medical research to make sure that their materials become digitized. So the CDC is a prime example of that. So you can go to the CDC and the World Health Organization for curated content on COVID-19 and coronavirus, and we've helped those two organizations actually digitize and make it available. Yeah.
Okay. A follow-up to that is you've said that Microsoft provides grants, okay, or access to the softwares applications that it has.
Mhm.
So does this mean that if the researcher came up with the paper, does Microsoft have copyrights on the paper?
No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
So no, we don't. Largely no. And I cite this by experience because I myself have received a number of proposals already from researchers and from faculty in certain universities. Kahit na hindi COVID-19 na. And the guidance that I've always got is whatever software, whatever output that was created, ang agreement lang dapat open source siya. Okay?
Open source.
It's not the exclusive ownership of Microsoft or the researcher or the university. It has to be shared with the world. In other words, kumbaga, malay mo, one of us would be able to find a very good therapeutic response to COVID-19, not short of a cure. Whatever lumabas doon, kailangan ma-share yan sa buong mundo. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
somebody from our friends from our universities would come up with something like that, and we definitely will support.
Okay, that's really very nice. Is there like a link that we can start dito sa getting the support of Microsoft's research? Maybe.
I can put those together, sir. I'll take it offline with you if you
Okay,
can email.
sige.
See, Dr. Rafi Cabredo actually knows my email address, so we can have an offline discussion.
Sige. So we'll just be in touch with you through Dr. Rafi Cabrera.
Yes.
It's really nice to see the link or the connection of Microsoft with the Supreme Court, no, with the judiciary system of the government, and the news on the fast tracking of court proceedings is really a big development. Are you also in connection? We know that you are in connection with WHO.
Mm.
But perhaps I failed to hear if you are in connection with the DOH.
With the Department of Health, there's a few discussions over there, sir. Hindi ko lang pwede i-disclose in this
Okay.
forum, but we've reached out to the Department of Health. They are a customer of ours in many respects, and there's continuing discussions on how we can definitely help them.
Okay. So going to our Q&A box. Ito, is there a free version? This is from Roland Algara. Is there a free version of Microsoft PowerUps?
Yes. There's a free version of Microsoft PowerUps. I believe for educational institutions is also free, similar to Teams. Just search for Microsoft PowerUps in your browser and then sign in and then off you go. Ganun lang kadali siya.
Mm-hmm. And similar to that question by Mr. Ramon Sampang of UP Diliman. Is Microsoft Virtual Desktop available for free to educational institutions? If not, how much will it cost to support 100 simultaneous users?
So virtual desktop is not free. Hindi po siya libre for education institutions. There can be discounts, academic discounts arranged for each one. For the range of, I don't know about education, no? Kasi sa commercial kasi it can be between $20 to $50 per user per month. So if you're talking about 100 simultaneous users, lagay na natin sa $20 per user per month. So 20 times 100, that's $2,000 per user per month. But that's commercial. I'm not so sure about academic. Meron pang ano yan, may discounts pa yan.
Baka sa academic. Yun yung habol
I'm not
natin.
familiar kasi sa academic discounts.
Okay. You also mentioned that PowerUps are being used by some LGUs already in the country.
Yeah.
So do you have an idea kung mga how many percent of LGUs in the country?
It's a very small percentage. Unfortunately, it is a very small percentage. Yeah, that's all I can say. Mas gusto sana namin mas marami, kaso it's hard to get the word out there. Marami tayong challenges in terms of thinking about how to adopt technology in terms sa mga LGUs, lalo na sa mga probinsya. A lot of these things they don't understand fully, and there's a lot of education that's involved.
Okay. So thank you very much for that very nice talk and for making us aware on how Microsoft helps people in this time of pandemic.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So to our attendees, again, we inform you to participate in our upcoming talks. So let me just share this slide. So tomorrow we will have a talk to be delivered by Dr. Noel Feria of the University of the Philippines. So this is tomorrow at 9 in the morning. And then on July 1, we will have a talk. We will have 2 talks. One is from Dr. Regina Estuar of Ateneo de Manila University, and the other one is from Mr. Joey Sibayan from Leadership and Learning, Apple, Philippines. So you can access the webinar through the links provided in your chat box. So we have a YouTube presence, as well as you can review the webinar through Zoom. You just click on the link that was provided for this meeting. Okay, and we encourage you to follow CSP on Twitter and also on Facebook. So we have the links on the webinar chat box. For those who want to avail of the e-certificates, we require you to become a registered member of the Computing Society of the Philippines to avail of these e-certificates. All right, so that is all for today. We thank you for your attention and for your presence in our COVID-19 webinar series. Goodbye.